wishing it had a happier ending.
You couldn't get Adam alive. You couldn't get Adam back when he was missing, in spite of everything you did. But I believe you saved Elizabeth's life.
Elizabeth, if you're out there, we're doing everything we possibly can to help you. We love you. We want you to come home safely to us.
I remember waking up to the voice saying, I have a knife at your neck. Don't make a sound. Get up and come with me.
I opened my eyes. Standing above me was this dark shadow of a man. As he was taking me out through my house, he had whispered to me, if you scream, if you yell, I'll kill your family or I'll kill you.
The next thing I remember after going to sleep was Mary Catherine coming around the bed to Lois's side and saying, Mom, somebody's taken Elizabeth. As I went from room to room checking, it became more and more of a reality that, no, she was not here. I came down the steps. She was not there. And it really erupted when Lois came down the stairs and turned on the lights in our kitchen and saw the screen cut. Mary Catherine had come down and said, you're not going to find her, a man's taken her. And you just can't even imagine what was Elizabeth going through. Lois was yelling, call 911, and that was the first thing that happened.
The latest on a developing story, and it involves every parent's worst nightmare. Authorities in Salt Lake City, Utah say 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart was taken from her bedroom in the middle of the night.
Elizabeth, if you're out there, we're doing everything we possibly can to help you. We love you. We want you to come home safely to us.
Joining us this morning from Salt Lake City, Elizabeth Smart's father, Edward Smart. Anything new, anything hopeful?
I'm unaware of any new, really conclusive leads.
The police are telling us don't get in the way of it.
Come on, guys. If you can't do it, we should be able to go out and do it.
This was not going to turn out good. And every homicide investigator I've known throughout this country felt exactly the same way.
One of the things about the Elizabeth Smart case that bothers me the most and makes me sick to my stomach, after 8 months, FBI was ready to close down the case. Salt Lake City police, they believe that she was probably dead in the desert.
We were looking for a body at that point.
I absolutely know that Elizabeth is still alive.
So go, John, you're the court of last resort. You're the guy who catches the impossible catches. Remember one thing, Elizabeth is the missing child. Elizabeth is the victim. This girl needed somebody to save her. Back in 1981, I had the American dream, the beautiful wife, the house in the suburbs, and a beautiful 6-year-old son. And one day I went to work, kissed my son goodbye, and never saw him again. She took him to the store that day. In 1981, video games were brand new. So 2 boys, about 12, 13 years old, were playing. Adam was mesmerized by that, asked his mom, can I stay here and watch him?
Reve said, Adam, I'll be in the lamp department 2 hours over. And he said, Mommy, I know where that is. And 10 minutes later, she returned and he was gone.
We've searched and searched for Adam, and we haven't found a body, so everybody thinks he's alive. We do too. And we feel that since you people have searched so hard, the best thing we can do now is get these flyers in everybody's hands, because the police are so frustrated. Nobody's really come forth, and the clues that we have, really, we haven't come up with anything substantial.
He's our only child, beautiful little boy, and we just want him back more than anything.
2 weeks later, they received devastating news. Adam had been murdered.
We think we gave it our best effort to bring him back. I just wish it
I had a happier ending.
I was at my most darkest point, and I'd gotten all kinds of advice from rabbis and Protestant ministers and Catholic priests. None of it worked for me. I really felt there was no God, no higher power. And I went to go get Adam's remains. I called up the Broward County Medical Examiner and said, look, I need to bury this little boy. I need to honor him. I need to have somewhere to go and honor him. I got in his office and I said, I want Adam's remains and I want them tomorrow. And I want to bury that little boy. And he said, you can't have his remains. You can't take him back. It's evidence in a capital murder. And until the capital murder is solved, you'll never get Adam's remains. And he says, look, you mounted the largest search effort for a missing child. You used your business contacts, the airlines, you did things that were never done. Why don't you make a difference? You can do that. He said, look at all the people who help you. And he said, if you're thinking about suicide, and I said, it's an option for me. And I said, you have no right to tell me not to kill myself. I have no business. I can't speak to my wife. My whole life is disintegrated. He said, you'd be a coward. I said, I'm not a coward. He says, I know you're not a coward. You're a fighter. He said, so get back in the ring. Fight for that little boy. Make sure that that little boy didn't die in vain. And he says, I believe in a higher power, that you're given this chance to make a choice. Do good, do evil, but it's free will. I still have the heartache, I still have the rage. I know what it's like to be there waiting for some answers. And over those years, I learned how to do one thing really well, and that's how to catch these bastards and bring them back to justice. I become a manhunter. I'm out there looking for bad guys. This girl needed somebody to save her.
Now we got a late-breaking case we need your help on tonight, and our Tom Morris has the story.
We started out the investigation with bad information and nothing much to go on, and it never got any better for us, really, until Ed and John Walsh broadcast that story about Emmanuel.
He certainly had those predator skills. He had a lot to hide. He had a rap sheet a mile long.
His ex-wife, Debbie Mitchell, had saw his picture come on the screen, and she just almost started hyperventilating.
America's Most Wanted.
Brian David Mitchell's ex-wife calls America's Most Wanted hotline and says he goes by the name Emmanuel. He's a street preacher. He's a con artist. He's got some psycho girlfriend or wife or whatever she is named Wanda Barcy. While I was married to him, he molested my daughter, which was his stepdaughter, and she's suicidal now. Bombshell.
911. Yes, I think I see that Emmanuel they're looking for, and he's with two ladies.
My dispatcher said we got a report of some citizens calling in, some suspicious people walking down State Street.
A whole bunch of police cars pulled up next to us.
Officer Jones was talking to the male individual, and my attention was drawn to the female. And when I took a closer look at her, I recognized her as possibly resembling Elizabeth Smart.
She was visibly shaken. Her heart was pounding so hard you could see it moving her shirt.
She kept kind of looking over towards him. He was telling Officer Rasmussen at the time, you're not allowed to talk to her, she's my daughter, don't talk to her.
At that point, I took her aside and said, you look a lot like Elizabeth Smart, and I think you are Elizabeth Smart. And your family is looking for you, and you need to make contact with them, Elizabeth.
I'd spent the last 9 months being very abused.
We told her, you're safe now, it's over. All you have to do is say, you're Elizabeth Smart.
Her eyes welled up with tears. You could tell if you wanted just to physically say it, that she wouldn't.
My captors are both right there with those same threats and the same pressures of if you don't do exactly what we've told you, exactly what we've prepared you for, we're gonna kill you.
Brian Mitchell's off to the side, still kind of talking, still trying to be loud.
Why didn't she run? She was 14 years old. Why didn't she escape when she could? Well, first of all, this guy broke into her house in the middle of the night and kidnapped her and told her every single day, if you run or you try to run, I will go back and kill your little sister. I will kill your mother. You don't have a right to question why this girl didn't run away.
What if the policeman didn't believe me?
what if they released me back to Mitchell and Barzee? What would they do to me? What would they do to my family?
I asked her one last time, for your own peace of mind, for your family, for yourself, tell us that you're Elizabeth Smart. And she says, thou say it.
The detective said, Ed, I want you to stop everything right now and come directly down to the Sandy Police Department. An officer said, oh, Mr. Smart, come this way. And I went down this hallway. As I got to the door, they said, well, we think we may have found Elizabeth. And I stood there. And I looked at this girl. And I just started crying. And finally I said, Elizabeth, is it you? And she said, yes, Dad, it's really me. And then she started to cry.
I was so happy when I saw him, when he came running over and just grabbed me in his arms. I knew that nobody would ever be able to hurt me ever again.
I'll never forget it. I was the one who got tears in my eyes because Ed said, you couldn't get Adam alive. You couldn't get Adam back when he was missing, in spite of everything you did. But I believe you saved Elizabeth's life. She was so thin, she was so frail, she was so fragile. And she said, thank you. She just said, thank you for never giving up.
And I said, we finally got somebody back. Got one back alive, to her loving family.
Coming back here to the remote mountainside camp that became her prison doesn't faze Elizabeth Smart now. The young girl who was held captive even faced her tormentor again at his trial in 2010. And when they made eye contact, she knew that Brian David Mitchell, the man she awoke to see in her bedroom that awful night, no longer had the power to terrify her.
I had moved forward. He was no longer a part of my life. He no longer could hurt me. He was nothing to me anymore. He had no part in my life.
What didn't Brian David Mitchell understand about Elizabeth Smart?
That I couldn't be broken.
Now to a dramatic turn in the story of John Walsh. As you know, he's made a career out of helping police solve crimes on his TV show America's Most Wanted. But there was one case he couldn't crack, the murder of his own son, Adam. Now, more than a quarter century after the 6-year-old disappeared, police in South Florida have declared the case solved.
I say to parents of missing children, murdered children, to all crime victims in America, don't give up hope. Sometimes you have to stay in there yourself. Sometimes you're the best and last hope to get justice.
We never give up. I've learned over the years, don't give up. Anything you can do. I think everybody is presented with challenges, some greater than others. I was given a real challenge, and I think you stop feeling sorry for yourself. You start thinking about the people that love you and helped you and supported you, and you get back in. You saddle up. You literally saddle up, and you go in there